everyone. This is Michele Hughes from Ageless and Timeless. Today I have a guest who I've been talking to now for a few months, and he was introduced to me by our mutual friend, Rob Fletcher, who is a Top Doctor Magazine executive. And his name, my guest name is Dr. Ken Davis. And Ken, welcome to Ageless and Timeless.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm excited to be here.
Well, you and I have had a little history. We were on Rob's podcast together. I was on your podcast, and now it's your turn to be on my podcast. So we have a lot to talk about. There's so many subjects that we didn't cover in the other two podcasts. So are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, why don't you first tell us who you are and your journey to where you are today? You have, I'll just preface it by telling everyone that Dr. Davis is a Renaissance man, a true Renaissance man. And we call him, and he's going to tell us all about that. But why don't you give us a little history, Ken, of who little Ken was, 70 years ago. And sorry to tell everybody your age, but it's truly a testimony.
Actually, I have a birthday this week, Michelle.
Oh, you're kidding. What number?
I'm the Leo. 73. This Renaissance man grew up in Paterson, New Jersey, home of Lou Costello, one of the first Colt 45 manufacturing factories. Very interesting city. Very multicultural. I loved it, and got very heavily involved with sports early on as a kid. But one day, my mom took me to the dentist office. She had an appointment, and being, I guess, a young kid at 7 or 8, I was fascinated in I guess they still do it, I don't even know, had all the dental molds in the window that you could look at from the waiting room. And I became fascinated with that. And at that point, at 7, I decided I wanted to be a dentist my whole life. So I played sports. I got a baseball scholarship. Was offered a scholarship from high school to go to college, which I did down in Erskine College in Due West, South Carolina school. But what happened was, as destiny has it, I went down, started playing baseball, and got homesick for my high school sweetheart. Mm. And I said, I got to come home. So as soon as I transferred home, I was supposed to start, I believe, the January, my high school supposedly sweetheart broke up with me.
Ken, I'm so sorry.
So, but no, don't be, because it was, if she didn't and I didn't go, if I didn't come home to transfer, I would have never become a chiropractor in what I did. So it was really a godsend as I look at it. It was destiny that would happen, because so I went to school, but what happened was, my journey was that I met this young fellow, and we became very, 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 very close friends, who was studying, actually, as I was to be a BS degree, he was going to be a medical doctor, and he is today, a very famous one, actually. And as we studied together, he invited me at one point. He says, look, why don't you come with me tonight to my chiropractor? I had no idea what a chiropractor was, what they did, and so forth. So I said, sure, because he said, I go to my chiropractor for tension headaches from studying. I said, okay, I'll come. So I went with him to this nice gentleman who had a 2-room office. He was really adhering to the philosophy of what chiropractic was meant to do and was developed to do. And everything he explained to me about it was, don't mind my dog in the background.
I see your dog. He's quiet anyway. So Ken, was that Dr. Reese? Was that Dr. Reese that you met?
No, not yet. His name was Dr. Armand.
Okay.
It was not him, but the understanding of the philosophy of the innate wisdom. See, what drove me to want to do this was because for some reason, I always believed that the body's innate ability and the innate power within the body had the ability to heal itself if there was interference being removed. And I just kept asking, and I went with my friend every week until finally I experienced having a chiropractic adjustment by him. And it
Hmm.
was great. And I just fell in love with the philosophy. And I said, this is what I want to do. And I applied
So
to school.
how old were you? How old were you then, or how young?
21.
Okay, so this was at the end of your
I was
college
at the end of, I
career.
was in
So
college.
when?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, when did you meet Dr. Reese? Because I know he was your mentor, and you mentioned him to me before that he changed your life. I mean, there are always people, I think, in life that are, the people that change who we are as particularly early on to shape our perception. So in your case, I think you told me that was Dr. Reese.
It was Dr. Reese. And the way in which I met him, you see, so when I finally, first of all, the chiropractic school that I got accepted with was on 71st Street in Manhattan. That's where everybody went, in this one big building. And I was supposed to start school there. And about a week before, I get a phone call from the administration saying the school is not going to be in New York any longer. It's going to be out in Long Island, the North Shore of Long Island, in Northvale, uh, utilizing the New York Institute of Technology's campus. So
Hmm.
I was the first class out at this new, and they had purchased property across, and they were going to build a new school. So I was the first class out there. So I remember I had to find a place to live real quick, and I found this lovely older couple had a beautiful home in Mineola, New York, and
I know Mineola very well.
where I was, and I was I had the whole second floor. So it was a Friday night, and I'm supposed to start on Monday, and I'm sitting there, 20, 21 years old, like, what am I doing here? Is this what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? So a little voice said, I decided that I started calling chiropractors up on the phone. And I told
Hmm.
them who I was and that I was starting school. And can I come and work for you? I don't want to be paid. I'll sweep your floors. I'll wash your windows. I just want to learn.
Shadow. You wanted to be a shadow. Today's podcast is brought to you by Gematria Products. Gematria is based in Carlsbad, California, and they manufacture ultra high quality dietary supplements using QI technology. Qi, as you probably know, is the energy that runs throughout our bodies and is the basis of Chinese medicine. Use the code AGELESS and get 20% off your order. I highly recommend Gemetria's products. I personally use the Complete Aminos, the Heart Gems, and the Methuselah Life, which is an RNA and DNA sublingual spray. The website to go to is www.gematria.com/QI-technology. And there you'll find out more about this fascinating company, their products, and the technology.
Wanted to shadow. And about the 50th chiropractor said,
50th. Oh my.
probably that I called on the phone, said, come on over. And his
Uh,
name was Ronnie Goodmark. And Ronnie was in Huntington, Long Island. And his brother Gary uh, uh, had just finished school and opened actually in a town right from where I eventually opened my first practice. So Ronnie was phenomenal. And I used to, so in his office, he had a very high volume practice. He was a very fine chiropractor, very philosophical, and I would record his findings. He would call it out, cervical 5 on the right and lumbar 3, and I would write it for him. And I watched, and then I learned he had a very special technique that he used that required very sophisticated X-ray marking and X-ray developing. So I developed all his X-rays, and I would call it out and tell him the line that he had to set up on the X-ray, and he taught me how the system. But there was something. So one day, after so many weeks being in his office, um, he brings these blocks out that look like wedges. And I said, Ronnie, what are these blocks or wedges? He says they're from a system, chiropractic system called SOT, sacro-occipital technique.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating. So I see him puts them onto the hips of the patient.
Mm-hmm. I've had that done.
It's called a blocking procedure.
Right.
Sometimes the blocks were put on the patient when they were lying on their stomach or in the prone position
Right.
or on
Yeah.
their back. So I said, fascinating. So all of us, he goes to the back office, takes out the green book, as I call it, 1974, gives me the book to read. So I devoured the book. So every day I worked, I believe, 2 or 3 days a week. I would write questions down and ask him about what this meant. And some of them he really, because he was kind of just beginning to learn it, so he was kind of neophyte in the technique.
Mm-hmm.
So in about 2 weeks, I knew more than he did just by reading the book.
Mm-hmm.
I devoured the book.
And
I
you were still going to classes, right? You were
still
getting your
going to
degree.
class.
So this was kind of a vocational experience to augment your studies, and it was basically out in the real world. So not a lot of people get to do that, and you were really lucky that he took you on. So
Oh,
yeah, I
that's
want to jump. I don't want to dwell too much on that because I want to jump ahead because I want people who are watching to know more
interesting.
about what you do as well as who you are. So let's just kind of summarize it by saying that you're one of those people that was very proactive and that you went to find your opportunities. You didn't just sit back and wait for them to happen.
No,
That
not at
shows
all.
up in your history of sports as well. So and that you came back because of a girlfriend, but they say that everything happens for a reason. So that was supposed to happen.
What's supposed to
And
happen? So,
sometimes we look back and we say, "Oh, now I understand why I got a broken heart, but I got a new career." So,
yeah, that's what
um,
happened. I
okay,
never looked at it that way, Michelle. That's a great,
right.
write
So
that
let's
line down.
fast forward. So now, okay, we're now in 2025, and here we are at the 47 years you've been practicing, correct?
48 years.
48. Okay, sorry. 1 year later. And
Yeah,
you're going to be 1 year older on Saturday. So uh, time does move on. Okay, so what is it that you're doing at the Davis
advanced.
company, at your advanced health systems? What is it that you're doing that makes you unique?
Um, I just want to go back for a second. The point is, in the relating back to Dr. Rees, that I eventually became a certified instructor in this system that incorporates the block procedures or the categorization, but also many other disciplines within it, which are craniopathy, the ability a craniopath is someone that's educated and is trained to evaluate cranial motion and corrective components. Also,
Mm-hmm.
in the SOT system is visceral manipulation, the ability
Mm-hmm.
to affect organ dysfunction and bring an organ back to life, really, with nutritional support.
Well, that's huge.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
That's huge. I mean, that's yeah.
So in the organ,
And does that put you in a category of an osteopath in addition to being a chiropractor? Because
no, but
osteopaths go
great
one
question.
step.
They are the osteopathic, the
Yes.
unfortunate element of osteopathy is that it's very difficult to find a classical osteopath that's doing classic osteopathy. It's
Right.
not to go ahead, but I was invited. I had an associate, uh, French trained osteopath working in my office a few years ago, who I met
Mm,
in my town here, Montclair. And I was invited and I taught at the osteopathic school in Paris
mm,
several days. And the French trained osteopath, first of all, are phenomenal practitioners. And
mhm,
first of all, they go to school for 6 years, not 4 years. And their specialty is cranial technique and
mhm,
visual manipulation primarily.
mhm,
And So also Desjardins, Dr. M.B. Desjardins, who developed sacro-occipital technique, was himself also an osteopath in addition to being a chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
And his teacher was William Garner Sutherland. And Sutherland, this famous osteopath, was the developer of cranial osteopathy. So, and I learned and became a certified craniopath through Desjardins. So I have this whole kind of lineage that led up to the process. But just a little bit more, Dr. Reese was a principal researcher and developer within the SOT organization and produced this incredible body of research that I did not see. No one else was producing this. And I heard stories about him that his work and research was done early in the morning, before work, and late at night. So when you're certified as an instructor, you're required to attend and teach us 2 seminars a year somewhere in the United States. And every time I went to teach, Doc was always, as we affectionately called him, he was always there at the seminar. And I would always make sure that I would go and attend his class and see, and it was always mind-blowing. Plus, once a year, Desjardins in Omaha, Nebraska, would have a week-long symposium of all the different techniques and procedures of the SOT system. And Reese, again, was always there. So, and one day, so I was already following and reading his books, but when I saw him begin to do his thing on stage and demonstrate, that was it. And I just started following everything that he did.
So that's what you incorporate into your practice today.
Well, the foundational element, exactly.
But also, when we spoke before, there was another uniqueness about you that I wanted to present back to you today to discuss, and that is that you know, many people just focus on the physical, but you are body, mind, and spirit in your approach to your practice, to your discipline. So could you talk about that for a moment? Just tell us how body, mind, and spirit.
Can I hold the chart up?
Sorry?
Can I hold the chart up?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. If you have something there, of course. Oh, there we go. Love it. Okay. Okay, explain that.
Here we go.
Is this what you show to your patients when they come in the first time?
This is what I educate everybody to.
Okay.
This is what I learned 40-something years ago.
Tell us what it all means.
This is what separates me from everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me 1,000% different, we believe. That's what everybody tells us.
Okay, so tell us what it is.
So one of the things my foundation that I learned many years ago is what's known as the triad of well-being. So this triangle, if you can put yourself, or every person is this triangle of well-being that exists on this planet today. And again, this triangle, so just put yourself there. So there's the physical that makes us up. Bones, nerve, blood, organ, gland, tissue. And then we have this side of the triangle.
And cells. Cells, which are the mitochondria, which is part of our well-being. Yeah.
And we have this element, the second part of the triangle, which is the mind. Our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our desires, sentiments, and so forth, right? Then we have this side. Now here's where people always ask me, which is because also our system is non-denominational. So it doesn't matter what religion, it's not about a religion. So a lot of people, they could be agnostic, atheist, whatever, and people says, well, what do you mean the spirit or this and that? I said, the spirit is the essence of who and what we really are. And whether you believe in whatever, we have to acknowledge at least that there is an energy within us, then we're alive, and it's not when we're not. And that energy has a lot to do with driving the mind and the body component. But to me, the spirit is the essence of who and what we really are. The spiritual being having this physical human experience. Not a physical being trying to have a spiritual experience.
Right, of course.
3 component elements that make us up as this spiritual human being that we are. The thing is that I learned in thousands and thousands of patients, beginning with Reese, is that the physical, where humanity suffers, only 1%, I don't care what it is, cancer, heart disease, back pain, headaches, or whatever is manifesting, only 1% of it originates physical as a cause. Only 1%.
That's a pretty mind-blowing statement, as you can imagine. Most people would not resonate with that because they don't get that there's this integrative being that's made up of all our thoughts
All these
create
parts.
our reality.
Watch as here's an interesting thing coming up.
Yeah.
Right, so then we have this
Okay.
side, the weight of the triangle of the mind, that accounts for 9% as the underlying component element, creating humanity's ills and breakdown. Then the spiritual angle is 90% of the causative factor of humanity's ills. But the thing is that, see, the essence of who we really are is the light. But if I have, so disruption, and see, this is always attempting to express itself at 100%. But certain elements of life create lampshades around this so the light may become dim, which could be a bad experience in Hebrew school or Catholic school or a divorce or a breakup or praying to God, help this person heal, and it doesn't happen, and a person loses their faith or they whatever. So all of that creates a disruption or a distortion in this element. Also, remember, Pythagoras, the ancient mathematician, said, if you have a triangle and you distort, this is an important part for the audience to understand. If you have a triangle and I change any angle of a triangle, what's going to happen to all the angles? They all change.
Right.
So that's an important concept in our system, which is that one angle, when in balance, is going to affect all of the angles. So if you have a mental, emotional major problem, it's going to alter you through your physical body, whether it's your chemistry, your immune system, your digestive system, your hormone system, and whatever. So it's kind of like the analogy I use a lot. If you have a leak in your ceiling of your bathroom and it's breaking up your tile and your grout, it's going to keep happening until you fix the leak. And so that's an important concept. One angle affects them all. So that's why over the years, and also teaching other doctors, you have to become proficient, not only in a system that where you're dealing with the underlying cause, but also what's kind of getting beat up. So that's where all your other nutrition, biochemistry, understanding hormone, visceral manipulation, cranial, structural correction, to be able to also repair what's being affected, but also having a system that can address the underlying problem. The thing is, though, let's go to this, and then we'll come back. We believe, and I believe, that inherent in all of us, there's a triune or of a blueprint of perfection that exists as a template, like a blueprint to build a house. But this template, this perfect triune, right, is affected by layers of the onion that construct themselves due to the fact that as a human being, we are exposed greatly to fight or flight response since the caveman. So when the caveman, when the saber-toothed tiger was running after the caveman, he did two things. He either killed it and brought the food home for his family, or he took off and ran. That fight or flight. The question is, when we have a stress response, is our ability, or our nervous system's ability, to be able to adapt to the stress, recover, and move on with life. If we don't, or we can't, or the stimulus is too much, which I have listed, is then that gets recorded as a layer of our onion. Somewhere in its effect in our soft tissue, in our organ functions, glandular, and our energy fields that run in and around the body. So what happens when you see a new patient or someone suffering or in pain, they have an accumulation of these layers of the onion that have been built since inception. And if you believe in karma or reincarnation, it's brought forth from another time as well. So,
okay, so Ken, I have a question. Sorry to interrupt you, but let's just say a new patient comes in. I mean, this is now multifactorial what you're dealing with, and you as the doctor are faced with getting to know a patient in a defined period of time in order to be able to effect change. And many of those patients don't even know what those other two aspects are, the spiritual and the emotional. They know that physically they don't feel right, but they don't go deep enough to know the other two. So how do you, as a doctor, get to penetrate into the psychological, the emotional, the spiritual? How do you get there from A to B?
Well, first of all, I make it my business. This is one of the things. I'm always available to all of my patients. And whenever a new patient calls my office up on the phone, I always make sure that I always call them back and talk to them first before they make the appointment.
Mm-hmm. And why do you do that? And what do you talk about?
I wanna understand what it is that, first of all, I always want to know who referred them. I also, in my practice, I don't take on a patient unless I know who referred them.
Ah,
That's a thing that I need to know who that is.
right.
Then what I do is that I want to know what their major problem is. And then I give them a brief synopsis of why, and a lot of people have heard that they don't understand totally what I do, but I've heard that they have to come and see me because of what I do, even though they
Mm-hmm.
don't understand it totally yet. And I kind of give them a brief understanding of that, of what we're talking about now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, when they come into the office and they go for their evaluation, initially before I even stand them up and look at them, I begin to explain to them why I'm different, kind of like I'm doing now.
Okay.
They
But
get,
however, you still have to peel those layers of that onion, so to speak.
that's
And like I say, many people don't know how to go deeper. They're not introspective. You're dealing with people who react rather than investigate. They're reacting to what they feel, but they're not looking at the reasons why, and into the other two areas that are more subjective. So I'm just curious because I want
no, it's a
my viewers to understand that this is not something that's just an ABC that you can say, okay, I'm going to go see Dr. Davis and it's just going to be a one-off. We're going to have a talk. He's going to ask me what's bothering me, what pain I have. He's going to do some adjustments. It isn't that at all. In your case, you're like a part psychologist as well as a chiropractor. So
I've been accused of it.
yes. Okay. So, the question really is, what's your secret sauce that gets you to get underneath those layers of the onion to get people to open up and be able to talk?
Well, the thing is also that I tell them, see, and they get it. They can see this. I tell them this is the reason why, whether it's the alternative world or the medical world, you cannot treat the person the same. Because
Uh-huh.
the underlying, even though, and then the analogy or the metaphor I've used for decades is that, so let's say you have 1,000 patients that have Crohn's disease. I'm just making this up.
Uh-huh.
The point is that even though you have 1,000 patients that have Crohn's disease or a chronic lower back problem or lymphoma, the origin or the causative factor may not be the same in certain percentage of them. So 300
Of
of
course.
them come from the physical as a cause, 400 come from this side, and the rest come from that side. How the hell do you know? There's no
Hmm.
system that's been developed to be, oh, well, the blood. We developed a system 50, 45 years ago that can identify where the origin of the problem is in a matter of minutes, of where it comes from, of what angle of the triangle it comes from. We have
Hmm.
a testing system utilizing specific reflexes or assessment points. And
Hmm.
the ability, also remember, one of the things that I am is I'm an applied kinesiologist.
I was just going to say that. So you use muscle testing, kinesiology. So do you ask them questions that bridge into the spiritual and the other mental, so in order to get their weakness right away? That's really cool. So okay, explore that with us a little further with
So,
kinesiology.
so we've, so for example, over the years, we've created reflexes that, first of all, relate to the body angle,
Hmm.
relate to the mind angle, relate to the spiritual angle.
So do
So,
you ask a question like how happy are you happy? I mean, that's a kind of a yes or no,
one of the questions I
but
ask
that
on
the
my new
muscle
patients,
testing.
I can. Oh, I have many things like that because, see, also one of the things that Dr. Reese taught us, the inner group, is that, and this is important for your viewers and listeners, your subconscious mind is the greatest physician in the whole world. Why?
That's right.
It records every scrap of information that has ever happened to you. And if you have a
Yeah.
way to access or query the subconscious, which we do, then you can get established information. So the point is that also
Yeah.
that we learned is that your conscious mind never tells the truth, never. It just gives the information to your subconscious mind, which has all the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, do I
Mm-hmm.
ask a question? You know what my question is at the end of their report of findings? I asked them also, let me just explain something too about muscle testing. When you must, first of all, we do not, whether or not one does it, doesn't do it, feels they're right, not right, we do not advocate pendulum testing, or a lot of people are using their fingers to ask questions. We don't believe that's an accurate, clear way because the practitioner's mind usually gets in the way of of allowing their educated mind to determine the answer. We don't think that that's accurate. And I haven't, and this is personally speaking. So, in addition to muscle testing, one of the things that I've used for 48 years is what's called an arm mentor, a surrogate. I use another person. And another
Mm-hmm.
person is called one mind removed, which means,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I do, which is you can also use a surrogate, someone who's neutral,
Mm-hmm.
and has been programmed a specific way to be a neutral and to create a greater circuit to the subconscious mind of the patient. So when I use a surrogate, they touch an area of the patient, and I'm able to utilize a response component in the arm of the surrogate. They have nothing to do with the diagnostic, and it's about 100% accurate. And this is what Dr. Reese did for
Mm-hmm.
60 years of being in practice. So, but getting back to individual, when we do a muscle test, whether you're lefty or righty, we always use the right arm of the patient in our testing mode. Why? Because there's more motor and sensory innervation to the right arm of a human being than any other part of the body than the lips. But we haven't found a way to test the lips yet, so we use the right arm. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
highly accurate way of getting information. So also, there's specific ways that we teach in our seminars and our classes of how to properly test and the type of different types of the public's arm that come in. There's a definitive arm, there's a wavy arm, there's a give-in arm, there's a resistant arm. Something that I've encountered in all these years of so many thousands of people that have come in, and what your account and what you're finding in the way in which you test somebody. But going back, so for example, at the end of my evaluation with somebody, and I explain everything to them, one of the questions I ask them, and I
What's
have
that?
is this: I want to get better. And
Mm-hmm.
if their arm remains strong, that's a belief system. Yes, from this, it's like a lie detector. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I want to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Another question I'll ask is, I believe I can be better, get better. You know what happens with a lot of people?
Mm-hmm.
Their arm goes weak.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I
Yeah.
said, we have an issue here. Uh,
Yeah.
Another question I'll ask is, I'll do anything that it takes to get better. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people's arm go down. They won't
Mm-hmm.
for varying reasons. These are the things that I address with a new patient. Uh, I'm ready to invest in myself, even financially. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
they don't, because I understand that people have a life to live, they have to put food on the table, but sometimes we tend to do the things that we need to. People will go and do what they want to do based upon their belief system. But a lot of people, and I've seen this over the years, make, unfortunately, finances and money an issue over the maintenance and establishment of good health. And then it
Mm-hmm.
becomes, the cliche is, oh, well, there's no amount of money that, yeah, until it becomes an issue. So
Mm-hmm.
also, so these questions are part of my examination on somebody.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Also, one of the questions when I evaluate them initially is I ask this question. On a scale of 0 to 10, tell me the level of joy you feel when you wake up in the morning, the first thing.
That's a
I'm not
great
talking,
question.
and I say, I'm not talking about the joy you have for your children or your dog or whatever. The level of joy that you feel, hey, it's a new day, it's joyous and whatever. And a lot of people are not at a 10. And I say, what's that about? So, these are the type of things that I talk to people about initially before we even
Right.
move forward. And then to really establish and address some of these things because they can greatly be impacting their health and their well-being in the process.
And are you using any equipment like the Beamer or some of these energetic?
The only equipment that I use adjunctively to my ability to the way in which I'm utilizing and accessing the energy and the vibrations that we use is I have what's called a light beam generator machine, which is a lymphatic drainage machine.
Yeah,
It also utilizes medical oxygen that converts through the machine into
yeah,
supersaturated ozone, which has been very effective
yeah.
in the treatment of Lyme's disease and varying infections, but also just on generalized lymphatic flow in the body. But
Okay.
primarily all these years is that apart from, I think you know a little bit about my history of using what's called, or being one of the leading researchers and developers in what's called etheric modification therapy or harmonics, which is something that Dr. Reese developed and
Hmm.
been a principal teacher in an organization the organization's really no longer, but is something that's a big part of my practice from a vibrational energetic perspective.
So, what of all the applications that you've described, which one would you say has more efficacy for healing? If you could single out, or is it all integrated into a bigger picture like you just described with the body, mind, and spirit side? I mean, is there a technique that you know is kind of foolproof that will always have a positive impact on
Yeah,
your
it's a system that we
patient?
developed that we've been teaching for over 30 years called natural force healing.
Okay, tell us about that.
Natural force healing,
By the
uh,
way, your dog is on your couch
that's his favorite
behind
place.
you. Is that all right?
Yeah, he's fine.
Okay,
That's his favorite place.
all right.
You um,
So natural force healing.
natural
What?
force healing is a vibrational system that utilizes very amplified energy, vibration, and frequencies, or what we call levels of energies. So maybe at some other point, if you have me back, I'll go deeper into that whole component. But not these levels of energies that we've researched and developed are applied on a person through specific hand placements on specific points of the body in a way in which we've learned over many decades of how energy moves in the universe and how to access it and how to amplify it. Also, being involved with vibrational therapy for almost 50 years, I've seen many, many things come about, and the problem, not to be judgmental with a lot of these energetic and vibrational systems that have evolved over the years, my experience with them is that there's no background or depth or really understanding of how energy moves in the universe. The fact that there is positive energy and there is negative energy. And that's a lot of people that are so-called healers do not believe that there is, because as you grow, so does the opponent. And a lot of negative energy that a person can bring forth as a healer to affect a patient can have a negative effect on them. But
Mm-hmm.
in the system of natural force healing, there are specific energy, vibrations, and frequencies that we've learned about to access and amplify them to be used on how it affects the patient. So there are what we call levels of energies that relate to the body angle when we test. So there's 12 major levels of the work in natural force healing. Different levels, as we call them, utilize specific frequencies, but very specific on how they impact the patient. For example, if we tested a patient and they were, let's say, in the body angle, the primary angle being the physical, there are, of those 12 levels, levels 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the levels that we would test that work to bring the physical side of the triangle back into balance. If they were in the mind angle, levels 3, 4, 5, and 6 relate to the mind and the rest relate to the spirit. So for example, let's say I tested, and we have screening points to know which of those levels of energies are needed. So for example, level 1, so would be a hand position here, and we would test. Level 1 deals with the meningeal dural system, you know, the coverings over the brain and spinal cord, which are like a tape recorder. So when we're in fight or flight response, this dura, the meningeal system, can hold memory of and keep a person locked in a fight or flight response to a particular area of life. Many areas, so that person is really not expressing to the world who they really are. So an energy, which our hand position is held a specific way, is an energy that can impact and amplify to clear that meningeal dural system out in a matter of 2 minutes, where their whole spine changes and they're breathing like they never did. So they move out of, and you know what happens with a lot of these people when you change the meningeal component? They start crying they start crying or laughing right there on the table. They have all these emotional releases. And when I first started doing this years ago, a person after their treatment would sit in their car for an hour and a half crying until they could go and drive. So level 3, for example, relating to the mind, level 3 utilizes a different hand position and a different point, has 2 energies that are used to this levels of energy remove in a person fixed ideas, mental blocks, and limiting beliefs that hold that person back in their lives. Level 5, which is tied into the mind, is another different hand position placed around the sphenoid areas of the skull. Balance that prevents one area of the brain being over dominant than the other one, and then its effect on the cranium and all the other energy centers. So each particular, for example, level 2, right and left, which comes up in the physical angle and in the spiritual angle. So level 2, if it was there in the physical, is causing physical-based karmic caused illness in a human being. This is the person, and that memory of that event, karmically speaking, is held within the meningeal system of a person. And
well, one thing we can say, Ken, is for everybody that's watching, you're not going to go to Dr. Davis to just get an adjustment, which is what
specialized type of an adjustment.
Well, I mean, a lot of people think that that's all that a chiropractor does, but obviously you're proving and presenting to everyone that this is a multi-layered, multi-dimensional system, and you just have to look deeper in order to understand why you have the issues that you have. It's not purely just superficial, like a lot of people think. Oh, I'll go to my chiropractor, he'll give me an adjustment, and I'll be much better.
We get those people. They think they're looking. You know what I say to them, Michele? I said, my name is Davis, not Jesus.
Very good. Well,
So
let me switch gears for a moment, because I want people to know more about your bodybuilding and your books. So tell us about the 2 books that you wrote and why you wrote them, and what the messages are in those 2 books.
The first book primarily that I wrote is called Climbing Mountains.
Right.
And that was more about the journey that I went on with Lisa and myself, about our work with Dr. Reese, what we developed, the techniques, the systems, our journeys around the globe, and so forth. The other book that I wrote was actually started out to be a follow-up to the first book, based upon all the travels that we went on with Dr. Reese all over the world, utilizing, being directed by, you could say, the powers that be to make changes throughout the world. We went to every mystical place you could possibly imagine and studied ancient religions, the cultures in Tibet, China, Japan, Machu Picchu, the Galapagos, Maui, Stonehenge, and I could go on and on and on and on and on. To Israel, Egypt, the Canary Islands. And so the second book, and to learn what we did there in our ability to access specific energies and learn about them and be able to use these energies to change the weather, change weather patterns, work to bring rain to the desert, to feed, all kinds of things that we did that people would think that we're out of our mind in a certain way. But I could tell stories for the next 8 hours about miraculous things that took place. Plus, in the making of these harmonic devices, we use certain minerals and stones found to vibrate at a specific frequency in the way in which they were made. And so, again, the second book started about all the things that we learned on these journeys. And then Marty Gallagher, who I wrote the book with, primarily said, Ken, your spiritual experience is tied to your bodybuilding experience as well. I said, it is? He says, yeah, of course. You have to write about that. I said, I do? Yes, you do. So, especially in light of, so it kind of took a turn, and I just started talking about it and writing about it. So,
well, I think people need to know that you started bodybuilding at age 66, and you are now turning 73.
And got my.
So this is all in your so-called golden years, where most people think it's time to hang up their cleats. And okay, all right, wow, look at you.
That's me.
Holistic bodybuilding. Talk about an inspiration. There it is, right there on the cover.
You know what? I don't hear from people that, oh, that's your what photo? Did you Photoshop your head on that body?
Yeah.
No, I did not Photoshop. They kind of busted. No, I said that's me.
Yeah. So okay, so this is somewhat miraculous, and as most people would look at it, they'd say, how can a 66-year-old look like that? And what did he have to do to get to that point? So why don't you give us we only have 5 minutes left. So in 2 minutes, tell us because I have another question. So in 2 minutes, tell us what you did.
First of all, real quick, that again, another aha voice, again, being an athlete, I had in one of our wellness programs, I had a mother and daughter. The mother, who would have no problem mentioning, Kathy Parakis, runs a gym up in close to New Jersey called Destination Fitness. And Kathy was a patient of mine in one of my programs. Her daughter Stephanie was as well, who was a competitive bodybuilder at one point. And I didn't see them. They did great. And I was looking at a Facebook feed, months passed, and Stephanie had put on 80 pounds, and I couldn't believe it. And then the next picture, she got it off and competed in bodybuilding. So a little went off in my head and said, that would be an unbelievable quest to do.
Right.
And I said, I'm going to do this, but if I do it, I want to compete. I want to be on stage. So I trained 7.5 months and got up on stage. But the thing is, I was in my 60s then. There was no 60-year-old class.
Right. So wow.
But I did great. I didn't place, but I held my own. And everybody freaked out. They couldn't believe I did it. I had to do it, and that was it. I was hooked. The point is that the key to anti-aging are these. This is what this book is really all about. Not so much about Ken Davis. It's about following these steps is what leads. And I know you know this already. This is what it's about, people. It's about proper diet and nutrition. 2, cardiovascular exercise. And 3, it's about strength training.
And as the other
component is your mindset.
Of course, your attitude, your sleep, your connection to community, your so-called happiness quotient, all of these things, and the disciplines that overlays all of this that you obviously have no shortage of, and that incorporates that discipline is really what allows you to get up at 5 in the morning and get to the gym, for example, or work out after work when you're exhausted. But you have a vision and a goal, and you're unrelenting in achieving your goals. So this is something that I think inspires everyone. I can't say enough about your book, that people should read it and be inspired.
Thanks, Michelle. It's something that I fell in love with. I've met some phenomenal people through the whole journey, like you. And I've
Thank
met
you.
you and Rob and everybody.
Well, you inspired me because honestly, I just can't imagine at 66 doing what you've done. I mean, I know it's possible because I look at you, and I look at like my friend Mary Abato. She just won the IFBB, I think I don't know, somewhere. I saw her on Instagram, and look at her. She's in her late 50s or mid 50s, and look at her body and how she's
Oh,
worked, so hard.
and I just want to tell everybody that. So my goal for this year was, and it's coming up in about 3 weeks, was competing in the World Masters Championships in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
And I was able
I
to
know that.
to get the promoter to put my age group into the champ, because several years ago, and I was the World Masters champion bodybuilder in the 212-pound division, 70 plus. So, but I'm competing in men's physique, and if I win, then I will be the number one 70 plus men's physique champion in the whole world.
And I bet you're going to win. I'm totally there with you, and I believe in
but,
you.
but I tell everybody, Michelle, and I think that I believe that everybody is a winner, because the ability of all these people that are training and eating properly and getting on stage and doing their thing, we're all winners. That's how I look at everybody.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
just something that I've come to love to do. My patients, I kind of share with them and teach them what I've learned. And the thing, again, I think maybe we can end, is that all I'm asking people to do is to try, to make an
Yeah.
effort, to just remember it takes one step first to do a mile. And that's
That's
all.
right. That
And
was John F. Kennedy, right? One small step. One
right.
step was what, 1,000, whatever, whatever he said was so important, right? A
And
1,000-mile journey. It begins with one step, and that's what you've done. Well, Ken, I don't want to cut you off, but we are at the close, and I want to be sure people know how to reach you. Can you give us the logistics if somebody wants to have a
one
consult
example,
with you?
yeah, look, I have no problem. My office number, feel free to call me in the office. I'll always get back to you. Leave a message. Is 973-744-7447. You can look at our website also, which is info at Davis, Davis, ahs.com, or you can direct message me. Send me a text message at 201-961-2290.
And if people have watched this podcast and they mention Ageless, is there something that you would offer to them for the first consult? I don't want to put you on the spot, but a lot of times our guests like to incentivize, and I usually ask before we go live, but we didn't have time today. So
I would certainly offer what would be the word I use, Michelle? A discounted rate, or
yeah, I mean,
or if you want
okay,
to come in, I'll do a discounted rate on our new patient evaluation. Or if you want to come in, I would do a screening of about 10 or 15 circuits to show you what your priority is, and then if you like it, then you can become a new, say, what, I want
patient.
to.
Okay. Okay. So we will put in the show notes all that you just said. However, we should put a number next to that. So what would you suggest?
Put 201-961-2290.
Okay, and then if they say Ageless, we watched
Follow
Ageless in
me
Time.
and just if they get my my message voice, just leave me a message and
Okay,
tell me who you are and the best time to get a hold of you. Because
okay, and then
I'll always get back
and
to you.
and then you'll work out the logistics based and the pricing based on the individual's needs. Perfect. Ken, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Happy
Michelle.
birthday, and we really can't wait to hear about the end of this month and what happens to you. And I
I'm
will.
going to get a hold of you anyway one of these days in person so we can
Right.
see.
Well, we're going to meet surely at A4M in December, if not before. So I know you're going to the Olympiad, right? That's when that's
It's
coming.
my goal to get there. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well,
Thanks,
thank you so
Michelle.
much. I'm going to sign off and say thank you again.
All right.